I do think that there is a shift in the Trump administration away from Russia toward Ukraine, and Putin is overplaying his hand and playing into that. He is exacerbating that irritation, and that's going to be bad for Putin.
The US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has said he doesn't have high expectations for peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. The comments come after talks between Kyiv and Moscow, due to start today, were postponed, pushed back to Friday, amidst questions and accusations from both sides about the other's seriousness on peace. Tonight, both have indicated talks will happen in Turkey, though not between Messrs Putin and Zelensky, as many, including US President Donald Trump, had hoped. So where do we go from here? Let's speak to William B. Taylor, a former US ambassador to Ukraine. William, welcome to the programme.
Henry, thank you very much for having me.
No, always good too. So given how much store Trump set by this meeting, I mean, he was going on about it on social media earlier in the week, he should be turning his fire and fury onto Putin, but he's not. So what do you think's going on? What calculations do you think they're making around him in Trump's entourage?
It's a good question, Henry. It's a good question. I anticipate there will be some response from the administration to Putin's no-show. I mean, this is not the first time that Putin has demonstrated his reluctance to go along with proposals from President Trump. President Trump and President Zelensky agreed, 2 months ago to a ceasefire, a 30-day air, land, and sea ceasefire. President Trump took it to President Putin, and President Putin said no. So this has been a pattern of Putin standing in the way of progress towards peace. And this latest no-show is an indication, along with, by the way, as you mentioned, this low-level, fairly, working level delegation that the Kremlin sent to talk to the Ukrainians, rather than having President Putin come, which, as you say, many people expected him to come.
Yep. I mean, when Trump says that things are only going to happen after Putin and I get together, and the Russians follow that up by saying there are no plans on the horizon for this meeting. How do you interpret that? Because some people are saying the Russians are increasingly confident that they can keep on humiliating Trump.
And if they do, they will overplay their hand. I think they're already doing that. I think they're already overplaying their hand. And we've seen, Henry, you've probably reported, a series of indications, of statements, of irritation, of frustration coming from President Trump, but not just President Trump, also Vice President Vance, Marco Rubio. All of these messages have come out that suggest that the patience that was there before for Putin is evaporating. And that patience is turning to irritation for all the reasons that you and I just talked about. So I do think that there is a shift in the Trump administration away from Russia toward Ukraine, and Putin is overplaying his hand and playing into that. He is exacerbating that irritation, and that's going to be bad for Putin.
At what point do you think, then, that Trump will turn the corner and will go from mild chiding on social media to actually saying, OK, you clearly cannot be trusted. I'm going to give more weapons to the Ukrainians, and I'm going to double down on sanctions on you. Do you think we'll get there?
I hope we get there, Henry. I can't give a probability of that. That is what many people are recommending to respond to this obstruction from Putin. The only way Putin is going to come to the table, which is what Trump wants. He wants to end this war, and that's a good thing. He wants to end this war, and the only way this war is going to end is if Putin comes to the table, agrees to a ceasefire. And the only way that's going to happen is if Trump does what you just said, that is, increases the sanctions, along with the Europeans that are ready to do it, as well as provide more weapons to the Ukrainians, and indicate to Putin that flow of weapons and that additional sanctions is going to persist until Putin comes to the table.
Yeah, people around Trump, but some of them who've served, say he's not really a man of detail. He's got a short attention span, and he's been busy, getting lavished by the Saudis, by the Qataris, by the rulers of the UAE. Do you think it's because, I mean, has he been distracted that he's not really focused enough on this week, on Ukraine and Russia?
Actually, no. I believe that he is focused on this. I mean, you saw his response. Well, it's going to take Putin and me sitting there, Putin and me, President Trump, to sit down and do this. This has been, Henry, it's a fair statement to make that this Ukraine war, that is the Russia war on Ukraine, is the top foreign policy issue of this new administration. There are other things, as you say, and this trip has kind of had some other issues that President Trump has enjoyed. But in terms of trying to solve a problem, the Russia war on Ukraine is the top priority, and I believe he will continue to focus on that.
And what about talk of a breakthrough in negotiations with the Iranian on a revamped nuclear deal? Trump has been really kind of raising the stakes on this, and he is going to expect some delivery soon. The question is whether the Iranians feel pressured enough, whether there's carrots, whether there are sticks, to shift their long-held position.
You're right, but all the signs are that problem is coming toward a solution. The signs are that both the Iranians and the Americans are coming to an agreement that could happen fairly soon, that has things in it for both sides. That on the American side and on the international community side, the Iranians would not go for a nuclear weapon. Big deal. That is a big deal. That's been the goal. No nuclear weapons for Iran. On the other side, I don't know what the response is on our side would be, but people have talked about lifting of sanctions, but it does sound like the sounds are, the indications are that there's some progress there.
Yeah, and we're also hearing that the president has pledged to lift sanctions on Syria. He likes the new president, the former Al-Qaeda operative. He says he's a great guy, he's an attractive figure. Do you read any strategy in all of this, or is it just transactional chaos?
I don't know about a strategy. This administration has yet to define a grand strategy. But I wouldn't go so far as transactional chaos. I would say transactions. And sometimes transactions get you where you want to be. So I would say transactional, yes, not strategy and not chaos.
All right, William, it's been a pleasure having you here on the program again. That's William B. Taylor, former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine. A number of